Welcome, Jordan here. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can reinvent your business over the next 90 days by changing at the identity level. I'm going to be sharing a couple of perspectives, a couple of ways of thinking that drastically helped me a number of years ago over my transition from one way of doing business into another, a different business model, and everything that encompasses that whole transition. I'm also going to be sharing what I've observed over 300 clients across different industries over the last 10 months or so, as many of these men, many of these clients were going through different transitions throughout their journey, whether it was something externally, whether it was business model, or whether it was actually at the identity level. So how can you really know if this is going to be relevant to you or not? Well, if you find yourself in a phase of life, a phase of business where things that used to excite you, used to be working for you, just aren't really clicking for you anymore. Maybe it's the clients that you're working with. Maybe it's just the way that you feel in the business. Maybe it's just the way things are going. And it can oftentimes feel like you need to find something that is going to give you that spark back again, right? And this is where we find ourselves looking outside of ourselves oftentimes for new ways of doing things, new strategies, new tactics, things that are going to help us reignite the spark. Maybe it's just a surface level problem where you feel like you're just not generating clients the way you would like to. All of these different things that cause an element of frustration, or you're kind of just slowly starting to resent either the people you're working with or the business itself. There's something there that is misaligned, right? And when we talk about misalignment, it's just something that's just not quite clicking the way it was before. This is how you know that a reinvention is going to be necessary. So when we find ourselves looking for things outside of ourselves, it's very, very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the next tactic, the next strategy, the next thing that we can do is going to be the thing that solves our problem. But oftentimes, it's the opposite. It's actually getting back to the root of who am I becoming at a deeper level. And my whole philosophy around this is business is a vehicle for personal transformation. When we go below the mind, when we go deeper into our truth behind why we do what we do, it's a vehicle for personal transformation. If we think of it this way, we may get into business for lifestyle reasons. We want a certain lifestyle, we want a certain income, we want a way to have more freedom in our lives, whether it's get away from a certain job that is not exciting to us, or we want to just share something with the world that we feel needs to be shared with the world. We feel a calling, we feel a purpose. And in those beginning stages, it could be just to escape an element of scarcity. It could be a different way of doing things compared to the circumstances that you had growing up. Whatever the reasons are, a lot of these reasons, they come from the mind. They come from a way of thinking that makes sense to us, rationally and logically. To have more freedom, starting a business may be the right direction to go in. But at a deeper level, when we move beyond the mind and we start to tap into the heart, we start to tap into the soul, business is simply just a vehicle for personal transformation, because it allows us to become somebody in a whole new way that we never imagined before. And because of business and the progression throughout that journey requires you to become a new person every week, every month, every year, to really level up and to align yourself with the goals that you have set for yourself. It really is a vehicle for personal transformation. So I wanted to start with this because this really leads us into our next point here, which allows us to get to the deeper aspects of what is going on a macro scale. I want to invite you into the conversation here today to be able to just expand your mind a little bit. When it comes to the journey of our human experience, it's a little bit more complex than we may think. Oftentimes we set goals from our minds, like we talked about. We set intentions and we want to achieve a certain thing. Oftentimes this comes from the mind, like we spoke about. But what we're really here to do is to actualize a mission, a vision, a purpose that is greater than something that we can imagine within our own mind, because we can't predict the future with our rational mind. It is simply not possible. The rational mind is something to be able to look back on and to be able to see where things clicked for us, to be able to recall certain memories, to be able to look at things from a rational perspective, to be able to read data and to be able to make decisions based off past events. We can't predict the future with our minds. So we need to be able to tap into something bigger than us to be able to really look at the path unfolding before us and to be able to trust and surrender to that journey, which we'll talk about in other videos. But for right now, let's look at this journey. When we are in this place of reinventing a business or reinventing ourselves, we are going through this point here, which is the valley of remembrance, is what I call it. The valley of remembrance is where we start to remember why we are truly here. And this happens at various stages. I would love to say that it's just a line in the sand, like it would be very, very simple to do so, but there's many of these along the journey, at least from my own experience. And before this, we are living in the real place of illusion. And this was beautifully shared with me from a mentor before, as I was understanding more about the spiritual journey and how that correlates into business in a very profound way. When we look at the areas of illusion, the very simple way to look at it is when we are unconscious, when we are unaware of really the reason we're here, when we start to get pulled in different directions through emotions, through things we see online, and we start to get triggered by these different elements that we don't understand, and we start to blame others and we think that we're a victim. We're solely caught up in our logical minds, and it causes us pain and suffering because we don't truly understand the reason that we are here in the first place. And as we go throughout this journey, and maybe you landing on this video is part of this journey for you, we get to this point, which is the valley of remembrance. And this valley of remembrance is the segue into discovering what the truth really is. So when you find yourself in the process of experiencing frustration or lack of fulfillment in your work, or something's just not clicking the way it used to, and you're feeling a bunch of different things, and you think that the solutions are outside of yourself, or you think that it must be something that you must do to fix the problem, oftentimes what you're going through here is some form of awakening. You are understanding that the way things were before are no longer required moving forward. And this is very challenging for the mind to really comprehend, because logically, none of this will make sense a lot of the time, because there's an ego death involved. There's a part of you that is letting go of a past way of doing things, a past identity, someone who you used to be. And when you're letting go of someone who you used to be, things can get challenging. It gets uncertain. You start to step into this gray zone where you're not really sure who you're becoming. You're not sure what that looks like. And when that vision is unclear, it can be challenging, right? So I completely understand. But just know that as you leap forward into this valley of remembrance, and you start to understand the true nature of what it means to be you in the most authentic way and build from that place, as your business is a vehicle for personal transformation, that allows you to grow and expand in a way that you're truly meant to do in this world. And that's a very beautiful thing. So let's look at how you can really do this. I break this down using 3 phases. These 3 phases are the identity recode method that I walk clients through in many different ways, in many different aspects, but the basis is the same. I'm going to highlight the 3 phases here so you can see really how this is going to play out for you in your journey. The first phase is deconstruct. Deconstruct is when you're breaking through the layers of identity that are no longer serving you anymore. A beautiful way to look at this is when you are on the journey of understanding what it means to live in alignment, to do something that is a little bit different to what you may have known before or what has worked for you in the past. What you are doing is you are letting go of an identity that is used to doing things a certain way. And as we talked about, there's a challenging thing to let that go. But when you are deconstructing, what you're doing is you're removing the emotional baggage, you are removing the layers of energy that are causing the blockages to happen in your life. Oftentimes, if you're looking for a simple way to spot different areas of growth for yourself, to be able to deconstruct this identity, look at your emotional triggers. Look at the different things that are showing up in your life that are causing you to feel a negative emotion in some way, shape, or form. These negative emotions are simply signals of where you are holding a belief system in place that is not serving you anymore for this next level of your evolution, which means that by choosing to rewire those beliefs and let go of the energy associated with them, you actually deconstruct this identity bit by bit, and you allow yourself to step into what is actually starting to form around you. And that brings us into the next phase, which is expansion. Expansion is a beautiful phase because what this allows us to do is to actually start to see what the vision is in which we are stepping into. Because without this first phase of deconstructing the old identity, the new vision cannot form, because we are limited by our mind. We are limited by who we believe ourselves to be. We are limited by how we see the world. And all of those things must be broken and recalibrated and let go of before this vision can actually be formed in front of us. So by deconstructing things in phase 1 and then allowing basically new space to be opened up within you, your capacity, how you see the world, how you see yourself, this allows this vision to be formed slowly over time. And this has been such an interesting thing for me to observe in my own journey, as well as the clients I work with. There's one client that comes to mind who was running a marketing agency for 18 months, And he was in this phase of, doing all the right things. He was going down the journey of personal development. He was, seeing his business as a way for him to personally transform. He was doing all the right things, and there wasn't really anything that he could do anymore to move himself forward, yet he was plateaued at the same income for those 18 months. When we started to connect and deconstruct some of the things in this phase one, we were able to pull apart the different layers of identity that was actually stopping him from being able to grow. And within the first 30 days, he was able to double his monthly income along the way. And that came from him, of course, leaning into this journey and this process, but it came from a couple of simple little changes that came along the way. This stuff doesn't have to be complicated, and I make things very, very practical. But in those 30 days, he was able to expand into something that was trying to come into his life for many, many months, but he was not able to actually receive that because of these layers of identity that were blocking it. So deconstructing those things is almost like you are breaking a hole in a dam and you are allowing the water that's trying to come through to actually just simply flow. And when you poke that hole, the water starts to flow through, and it becomes just a natural flow. It just becomes easy from that point forward. But for that to happen, there has to be some deconstruction in place. So when we look at this last phase, this is the phase of embodiment. The way I see embodiment is the electric current that runs through our lives to actually fully actualize this vision that we have allowed ourselves to expand into. Because in this phase of expansion, what we're doing is we're looking at a bigger vision. We're trying to find where it is that we as a soul, as a being, fit into this path of actualizing a mission of service to the world. What is that vision? What is the vision for who we are becoming? What is the vision for who we are expanding into? What does that really look like? And how are we building our life around that as well, so that we can have the fulfillment, the desires, whatever that looks like for you, but in the service of others. And when we do that and we get clear on that vision, now it's about how do we actually embody that version on a day-to-day basis. Because many times we can see these different concepts that are up in the air. They are nice to hear and then we forget about them. How do we actually bring this into a daily embodiment practice and simply reframe different elements where we are operating from this old identity that used to look for answers outside of himself? So that is these three different phases. And what I've noticed across my own journey and across many clients I've worked with is that this journey is constantly repeating. This is the same journey that I followed when I was transitioning from an agency owner into what I do today. And that journey was really just stepping into the unknown, because this is really what it's all about. Embodied leadership, like we're speaking about here, is you stepping into a new level of leadership within yourself. This transition, this reinvention of the business is just a way for you to actually step into a higher level within your own life. And not only does that have an effect on your income, who you become, all these different aspects of life, it has such a ripple effect in how you show up, your energy, your frequency, who you are, because you are building into the person that you are meant to become. So with all this being said, we want to keep this in mind. Business is a vehicle for personal transformation. When we see it from that perspective, we can allow ourselves to understand that if I can consistently shift at the identity level, it allows everything else to trickle into place. It's the biggest domino that I can knock. So it's not about, hey, what do I need to do? What do I need to fix outside of myself? Yes, that will come. We're not saying that that's not important. But first, who is it that I'm becoming? What level of leadership am I actually being called into in this phase of life? And once I have some clarity around that, okay, well, how can I start to let go and deconstruct this old version of me? Send it away with love, not judgment, not hatred, but sending it away with love because it served you to this point forward. And then from that place, the vision will emerge. And when that vision emerges, how do we step into that new version of ourselves on a day-to-day basis? Understanding that everything that we now create from that place will be coming from this place of alignment. It will help you to let go of these areas of frustration or resentment towards what you're currently doing right now. And oftentimes in these phases, people change what they're doing. They may change their business model. I've had clients in the past move from one way of doing business, whether it was done for you services, into something that was more exciting for them, more creative. There's many different things that can change. But what we are doing is we're getting comfortable with stepping into the uncharted waters, the uncertainty that comes with that. And this is the journey of life. And the more that we can become more well-versed in this gray zone of uncertainty, the more that we are forged and stepping into our most courageous self. If you are looking to go deeper into these 3 different phases here, check out the first link in the description. You'll be able to see what it's like to work with myself. Until then, I will see you in the next video.